Awesome. Okay, well, thanks and welcome again, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to connect with all of you. I'll just start by introducing myself. My name is Rebecca White. I know you've seen my name obviously in some emails, or one at least email. So it's really nice to kind of have the opportunity to connect with you beyond email today. So my goal for today is to just help you feel a little bit more comfortable in what you've committed to with this volunteer opportunity in the Future City experience. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about what the Future City experience is and what your role in it. And then I do want to spend a good amount of time today just talking sort of more generally about some advice we have, some tips, tricks, lessons we've learned on how to talk to kids about engineering. You'll hear me say this quite a few times today, but our goal with this program is just to create positive experiences for kids, period. So we want to keep that in mind. So with that, let's jump right in. So what exactly is FCE and what is my role? So I want to just take a second and explain a little bit about FCE, or Future City Experience, and kind of the design of it and some of the thinking behind that design. So to start with, I want to tell you that there's really two programs in place. So the Future City, you'll hear it referred to as the Future City program or the Future City competition. That has been around for quite a while. Like I think over a decade, the Future City competition has evolved. It started in the U.S. It's hosted by an organization called Discover E, like the letter E. They do some really fantastic, awesome stuff. I encourage you to check out the work that they're doing. So started with them in the States and has evolved into an international competition now. So it is a competition style, obviously you can get that from the name, competition style program. And student teams in grades 6, 7, and 8, they spend many months working towards regional and advancing through the levels to potentially make it through to the international competition. So the website actually sums it up really nicely. I'm just going to take a second and read for you just to kind of help you frame what Future City in general is all about. So it says that Future City starts with a question. How can we make the world a better place? I really just love how they've phrased that. I think it's so cool to start that way. To answer it, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students imagine, research, design, and build cities of the future that showcase their solution to a citywide sustainability issue. Past topics include stormwater management, urban agriculture, public spaces, and green energy. The 2020/2021 theme, because as I mentioned, there are some students that have been working on this since September. The theme is living on the moon this year. So super exciting and so relevant these days with the Mars rover landing and just so much going on in the whole world of space. And teams will design a futuristic lunar city and provide examples of how the city uses 2 moon resources to keep its residents safe and healthy. So there are some strict regulations when it comes to the competition. They have 5 deliverables that they have to work on, and they've got extensive rubrics and all that sort of thing. So that program, there have been schools that have participated in that program in Canada. Engineers Canada, who we're working closely with on this opportunity. They have been doing this for a few years as well. And so the feedback from the teachers and the students and anyone that's been supporting it has been very positive. They really love it. They love the idea behind it. However, they've also said that it's quite intensive. So it's quite a lot of work for the teachers. It can be a little bit intimidating. And so what Engineers Canada has decided to do this year is try and use their resources in a way that they can make this opportunity more sustainable and maybe improve reach and reduce some of those, break down some of those barriers, get kind of hurdle over some of those roadblocks. So the Future City experience was born. And so when you hear us talk about the Future City experience, that's the program we're talking about today. So the difference is that essentially it's an abbreviated version of the full competition. So what that does is it essentially makes it really a lot more flexible. It's not a competition, so we don't have to be so strict in making them do all 5 of the deliverables. And if there's kids that are outside of that grade 6, 7, and 8 age bracket, we can welcome them in if they feel that it aligns with their skills and abilities. It just really opens the doors. And it takes away some of that intimidation, I think, for the educators and probably the students as well. It kind of takes some of that pressure off. That said, we did love the idea, part of the excitement of participating in a competition is having something really exciting to work towards, right? So in order to simulate that, we have integrated a showcase. So the students and the educators and the groups that are a part of the Future City experience are working towards this showcase. And so we really want them to be excited about it. It's an opportunity for them to connect and get feedback from, people that are working in the field, engineering students, STEM role models, that sort of thing, like real live feedback from real people is a very powerful experience for those students. And then just showcase. So we're going to make it fun. We're going to have some great keynotes, and we're talking about doing some things like having a video montage of all of the models that get submitted. So we really want to, focus on what that connection, how we're able to connect those students and educators and leaders with what it means to, and what's possible really with engineering. So hopefully that helps clarify a little bit about what Future City is, what the Future City competition is, and the abbreviated version that we're here for today, the Future City experience. I should also mention that we were actually very pleased with the response we got from all of you as virtual mentors. Thank you so much, as well as the student groups that signed up. So we opened the doors here. It's not just necessarily schools that are participating or classrooms. We had a lot of response from youth groups like scout groups and girl guide groups and that sort of things. Even some homeschool, some individual homeschoolers were approaching us as well. So we have a real nice diversity when it comes to who we're connecting with, which is fantastic. So what is your role in this, in the Future City experience? So we really want you to be part of the ones, and sorry, I just realized my timer is still up here in the way. So let me get that out of the way. There we go. So we want you to be a key part in creating these positive experiences. Some of the feedback we got from the educators, the leaders in the past, was that they really appreciated the opportunity to have support from someone who works in engineering or is part of the engineering community or in a STEM role in some way. You'll hear a lot in the education space that they really appreciate the opportunity to have experiential learning for their students. So essentially connecting the dots between what they're teaching and what those kids are, sitting in their desks working so hard and studying every day with what's possible in the real world. And so that's where a virtual mentor can kind of fill that gap. So you'll be there to, share your experience, answer questions. You can provide some advice, talk about things like the engineering design process. How do you research, plan, and build? You can talk really kind of in those broad terms. I'm assuming not all of us here on the call today are astronauts or planetary scientists, that sort of thing. I want to assure you all that that is okay. That's really not going to have any bearing on your or their experience. I'm just getting some feedback. Make sure. There we go. That's okay. So, think about it in terms of, as we said, like talk about just your own, they want to connect with you as a human being, as someone who can give advice. So that's your piece in this, how you kind of fit into this piece of the big puzzle. So what does that look like in terms of logistics? So we're almost at March. I was looking at my calendar today. I can't believe it. March is coming next week. So happy early National Engineering Month, everyone. So in March and April, we want you to try and visit with the youth group or the class that you're matched with once per month. So essentially 2 visits over the next 2 months. The visits you could expect to be about an hour. They're usually lined up with like a class period, or if it's a youth group, they only have so much time available. So and an hour is really a lot of time to be talking to kids over a screen. So that's to help you with your planning, what you can kind of expect in terms of that commitment. And then the showcase itself, you may have seen these dates. I think we had them in a few places when you were registering or sending us your application. But we were planning for the showcase to happen on May 5th and possibly May 6th as well. We didn't really have a sense of how many submissions we would get, so we weren't sure if we need 1 or 2 days. We can confidently say now that we will be able to handle all the submissions in 1 day. So May 5th is the date for the showcase. So please block that date in your calendars now. As plans develop for the showcase, we will get all that information to you. We'll send you the calendar invites and all that kind of stuff. But the 5th will be the day. And we originally thought it might be about a 4-hour commitment. It's probably going to be more like 2 hours. We're going to do a bit of an opening ceremony. Then we'll have breakout rooms where the student teams will be presenting their designs, and there'll be some opportunity for feedback. And then we'll come all back together for some closing remarks and closing comments. And because we had so many of you that responded to support this, we think we'll be able to get it done a lot quicker. So that's fantastic. I do want to say, though, that we are thinking ahead and we're keeping our eye on dates within the education system at the moment. If you're in Ontario, you might have heard already, or if you have kids and you live in Ontario, you probably already know that they've already moved March break once. And so that may happen again. We just don't know. With everything that is kind of in flux at the moment with COVID and the protocols that are in place for that, we're well aware that things are subject to change. So we want to be prepared. So what we're doing is having a backup date. So the tentative backup date at the moment is May the 12th. So we just scheduled it for the following week, just in case, like I said, in case they bump March break again to the beginning of May. We've already got plans in place. So if you could please mark those 2 dates firmly off on your calendar, I would appreciate that. The dates in March and April are flexible. Those you're going to be connecting up with your teacher, your leader, whoever it is, to figure out what's going to work best for them and what's going to work best for you. All right. I'm going to keep going, and as I go through, if you have questions, concerns, comments, please feel free to use the chat. I'll try and keep my eye on it as I'm speaking. All right, so for today, as I mentioned, our goal is really to create a positive experience for everyone that's involved in this program, for the students primarily, but also for the educators, for the youth leaders, for you. We want everyone to have a great time. So we have some advice on how to do that. So we're going to talk about creating connections through storytelling. We're going to talk about the importance of diverse and inclusive messaging. And then we're going to talk about some nuances around virtual connections. And I'm going to leave some time. I'm going to keep a close eye on my time here for Q&A at the end. So to kick it off, or maybe to give myself a chance to take a little pause here, I thought I would just share some words of inspiration. And I found this quote from Ralph Ellison that I thought was really applicable and kind of matched beautifully with the situation that we're in here. And he says that education is all a matter of building bridges. And I just thought that was so neat, the way that we're looking at it here. We have the education system and the teachers and the students that are there. And then we have communities, and we have engineering students and STEM leaders that are working in this space, these communities, to solve problems and make the world a better place, really. And this program is an opportunity to build a bridge between those two, and so that's what we're all about. So what are the objectives of the program? First, maybe I'll tell you what is the objective not, or that's maybe not the right way to say that. What is not the objective of the program? It is not to convert everyone into an engineer. It is not to criticize their science or their math, and we're going to leave the learning part to the teacher, absolutely, and definitely you can get involved in that. But the goal is to, like I have said a few times already, the goal is just to create a positive engineering experience. We just want to get the kids curious. We want to help them see that engineers do more than just build bridges. And coincidentally enough, I just talked about building bridges, I know. But we have spoken with hundreds and thousands of kids over the course of the work that we do at Engineers of Tomorrow. And whenever we ask a group of students what they think engineers do, the number one answer is always build bridges. So this is an excellent opportunity to change those perceptions and see what's possible. And then bring the curriculum to life. So I talked a little bit already about experiential learning. So it's an opportunity to connect the dots between what those kids are sitting and learning and working so hard at, and how they can use that knowledge, how they can apply it, how they can, a path that they can follow for their future. So connecting them really to a brighter future. So let's jump right in. How do we do that? So we've got, as I said, a few pieces of advice, tips, tricks, whatever you want to call them. So we like to talk a lot about storytelling. Storytelling is a really powerful tool when it comes to connecting. Why is that? Well, storytelling involves emotion. And when we can connect to emotion, that's where we can create a lasting impact. I will tell you myself, I am a living, breathing example of the success of STEM outreach. I did not grow up around, I didn't have any engineers in my family, or none of the friends of our family were engineers. I didn't know anything about engineering myself when I was growing up. But my parents signed me up for a summer camp. It was a day camp. I grew up in Kingston, Ontario, and so we lived near Queen's University. And I was fortunate enough that when I was in grade 3, the the engineers there started this camp called Science Quest. So I think it was one of the first of its kind. We have lots of STEM camps now these days, but this is going back a little while. So it was one of the first of its kind. And I loved it. I had so much fun there. I was so excited to go back to camp every day. In fact, I made my parents sign me up every year that I could go. And I cannot tell you what activities we did. I don't remember if we built airplanes or if we built bridges. I don't know. I don't remember what the activities were, but I remember how excited I was. So that just speaks to the power of these connections. So for others, that's right, a great way. Storytelling is a great way to send a message, convey lots of information, and create those emotional connections to have impact. But it also has value internally for yourself. And this is something I've learned over the last few years because we do a lot of storytelling. It really has forced me to do some internal reflection and to think about, choices I've made and the path that I've taken. So it has really, for me, helped me reconnect to my own engineering identity. And so I hope it can do the same for all of you as well. All right, so how do you create your own story? This isn't something that we do every day. So let me sort of start off by saying if this feels a little uncomfortable or unusual, that's actually very normal. Unless you have young kids of your own and you're used to kind of communicating with them in that way, you've maybe got some experience. But if you're, an engineering student, you're probably used to how you're communicating with your professors, how you're submitting reports and doing labs and that sort of thing. Or maybe you're in boardrooms and you're doing presentations in front of executives, that kind of thing. And so the storytelling gets a little bit, that's a skill that we haven't maybe used in some time. So we've got a few steps that you can take to get back there. So first off is just reflect. That's it. Take some time. Think back to your past and what were some of the things that really stand out for you. Maybe you've got some favorite memories. Maybe there were some things that were really challenging, and those will come up as well. Just spend some time letting that kind of bubble around in your head for a few days and see where it takes you. Also important to know your audience, right? So we talked about the audience for this particular program is going to be primarily grades 6, 7s, and 8s. So what's that? Sort of 11, 12, 13-year-olds. So it's really helpful to know that. How old are they? That's a good piece of information. But also, where do they live? What's relevant to them right now? Obviously, we're all connected in this world right now about what's going on with COVID and all of that. That's going to be really relevant and probably top of mind for them. But maybe there's things going on within their own communities that you can connect with. So be open-minded and just try and put yourself in their shoes. And then what's left is just mapping it out. So I think I have on the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about, we actually have a bit of a template that you can use if that's helpful to you to help map out your storyboard. But it's really as simple as identifying yourself as a human, unpacking your reasons, and then connecting to that why. So introduce yourself to them. They're not going to care about the letters after your name. Definitely, I'm sure you're all very proud of them, but the kids, it's just going to go right over the head. So they just need to know your name and just something interesting about yourself, an interesting fact or like you said, something relevant that's maybe happened to you that they could connect with. And then unpack your reasons for all those decisions you've made, things that have influenced you in your life. There's going to be kids that can relate. So you want to, this is just another way to kind of humanize yourself to them. And then, like we said, don't forget about the why. We do want to be real with these kids. We want to let them know, yes, engineering is hard. It's a lot of work. And there might be certain parts of it that are harder for you than and harder for the person sitting next to you. But that's okay, because engineering is hard and you can still do it. And as an engineer, you get to do these amazing things like help solve big problems and work with really fun teams and get out into the field. It really can be whatever you make it. So it's worth it. So it just helps connect them to that motivation for when things do get hard, because they will. They'll get hard during their design project that they're working on here, and they'll get hard as they work their own way through their education. So we've covered most of these do's and don'ts already, but I know I have a lot of scientifically minded folks on the phone today or on the call today, and so I'm trying to be aware of my audience as I was putting this together, and I thought a nice check, kind of a bit of a checklist here would be helpful. So do tell your story with enthusiasm and emotion. This is not a boardroom. It's a classroom, or it's a gymnasium that they're in, or it's someone's living room that they're going to be sitting in. Try and rehearse if you can. It's, you know, the more times we can tell our story, the more conversational it feels, the more real it feels, the more connected we can feel. And do be descriptive. Go beyond the facts. Kids are curious. They're gonna want to know all about you as a human. And then for don'ts, so just along this sort of same idea, don't tell your story as if it's a business presentation. I had some people in the session yesterday were asking about slide decks and that kind of thing. It's absolutely okay to have a presentation if that, you know, helps keep you on track or helps you know, keep the key points you had in mind, helps remind you of what you want to say. That's okay, but just keep in mind you don't want it to be like a business presentation. We really want to create that emotional connection and be personal. And then don't kind of get off track here, right? Don't tell details or plot lines that really don't progress the story. Kids are taking in a lot of information these days. And spending all that time, especially on a screen, if they're looking at you through a screen or like TV screen or maybe a big screen, it's a lot for them to take in. So do try and have a plan and stick to it. I saw, I think, a couple comments coming in. One comment, anyways. Felix is saying, I would rather use the word challenging instead of hard. Whatever works for you, Felix. I don't know. My personal experience, I found some parts of engineering were hard, and that's okay. Because the story there is that it was hard and I got through it, and you know, I'm better because of it. So this is the slide I was talking about. There's this little blue arrow button thing here. When I send you a copy of this slide deck, you can actually just click on that and it'll take you to a template that we've prepared that has just some nice prompts in it that can help you create your story. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a time check now. Excellent. Okay, so now moving into diverse and inclusive messaging. So I've already told you we like to talk about the why behind things. So first off, I'm going to start with why is diverse and inclusive messaging important? Why are we even talking about this? Well, sort of in very kind of general terms, we know that one of our goals is to not just attract, but also retain diverse and talented individuals. And we want to know how to do that, right? So we know with the engineering profession and the engineering community and everyone supporting it, these are people that are solving complex problems, challenging problems, if you want to put it that way, Felix. And we're solving problems for society, for our communities. And so if the people that are solving these problems, if their backgrounds and their ways of thinking don't reflect the society of the problems that they're trying to solve, then there's going to be there's going to be gaps, there's going to be blind spots, and we're not going to come up with the best solutions possible. So that's, I think a good argument for why having a diverse group of thinkers attack these problems is really important. And so for us today, as scientifically minded people on this call, we want to trust in the science. There are some really smart social scientists that are studying and actively working on how to integrate inclusive messaging when we are talking to kids about STEM or engineering. So we want to take that science and apply it into our outreach practices. So here's a little bit of insight into some of that science. In all honesty, there's a lot of it. So if you do want to dig deeper into this, by all means, you can do that. We have some other webinars where we spend like an hour talking about this, but I wanted to just give you a sense for today of some of what's out there. So you may have heard of the term stereotype threat before. For those who haven't heard of that before, it's a situational predicament in which people or groups of people feel that they are at risk of conforming to a stereotype about their social group. So it doesn't necessarily mean that stereotype is actually present. They just have to feel that it could happen, the threat of it. And so that can lead to some consequences that definitely are going to affect performance and affect the experience. And as you've heard me say a few times already, we want to create a positive experience for everyone that's involved. So if there's groups that are and individuals that might be experiencing stereotype threat, that can result in things like undermining performance, triggering concerns about belonging, lowering engagement, even threatening health. So for those people that are under these stresses, they're not going to have that same experience that we want everyone to have. So lots here to just sort of take in, and good to just be aware of it. And we've got some advice on actions that you can take. Interventions that you can use in your approach, in the design of your visits, that will be helpful, I think. So what can you do? Well, let's put the research into action. I'm sure we have a lot of doers on this call, so I'm sure you're all thinking the same thing. It's great that you just told me that this is a problem, but what can I do about it? So here are 5 things that we recommend. So first off, we have model respect for minorities and women, be relatable, and promote a growth mindset. So with modeling respect for women and minorities can be as simple as just thinking of some ways that you can just show respect for maybe the educator you're connected with or the youth leader. In a lot of cases, especially when you're connecting with educators or teachers, they will be women. And so one of the things we're keenly aware of is that there is a risk that we would be seen, or all of us that are putting on our role model hat for this opportunity, as someone coming in and displacing the teacher. And as I said, in many cases, that's going to be a woman. So that's absolutely not the effect that we want. So think about ways you can engage them in the conversation, ask for their help. They're the experts in how the students, the student behavior and coordinating with questions and that kind of thing. So you really want to, and don't be afraid to show that to the students, that you ask them for that help. Be relatable. So we talked about this a little bit already during the creation of your stories. So we want you to connect with people as a human, connect with the educators, the students, everyone that's involved. And whenever possible, so when you're trying to connect as a human, you're going to want to talk about things that are going on in your own life. So you try and use non-gendered examples if you can. So food that you really like, maybe a great restaurant that you got takeout from recently, your favorite music, some movies that you love, that kind of thing. And then we love talking about growth mindset. And this is something that is becoming more widely not just accepted, but put into practice, I would say, in the education system now, is the idea of celebrating failure, talking about what it means when you fail, and what we use that information for. And especially as people that are working in the engineering community, we actually really appreciate failure. It's part of the engineering design process, right? We want to iterate. So it's very valuable information. So it's important to show that, model that for the students that we're connecting with. I heard a great story or example of this happening in real life recently. I was talking to someone who was presenting, I think, at a conference, and she was telling me that there were lots of students tuned into this conference, and there were some technical difficulties that happened. Something failed, let's say. And that's okay. They dealt with it and they went on and they were professional about it. And the feedback she got from the students afterwards, they were blown away by the fact that she wasn't rattled by this glitch, by this failure. They couldn't believe how she stayed calm and she just continued on. So without even intending to, she really gave the message that it's okay, no big deal. We all fail. It happens to everyone. And then the last two recommendations we have, or interventions we recommend, are maintaining high standards and valuing diversity. So with maintaining high standards, I actually find this one a little counterintuitive. We all have, we're kind-hearted and we want to see the students succeed. So we have a tendency to, when we see them struggling, we lower the bar. We say, well, I know you were trying to get these 3 things to work, but how about you just get 1? And what the science tells us and the research tells us is that that approach actually has the opposite effect to what we're intending. The students interpret that as you're judging them, you don't think they're good enough, they could never do it, so you're lowering the bar for them. So what we want to do is keep those high standards, but send the message that, yes, it's hard or challenging, and I really believe in you. I'm here to support you. I think you can do it. We can do hard things. So keep those standards up there and be, the cheerleader on the side. And then valuing diversity. This is definitely something that all of us have, our awareness has really been broadened over the last 6 months or a year now, especially with the Black Lives Matter movement. So we know that actually being colorblind is not the right approach. We want to value diversity. We want to show diversity. We want to talk about why it matters. I started off this section talking to all of you about how engineers and the engineering community solves problems for our society. So we need to represent our society. That's why it matters. If we don't have diverse thinkers solving these problems, we're going to have blind spots. We're going to have gaps. People can even get hurt. All right, so let me just peek and see at the comments. I think we're doing pretty well on time here. And give me a chance to take a little pause. So, Christine was asking, how long do you recommend we spend on telling our story? I would say that, attention spans are short. I've got 3 kids of my own, and like it really floors me to watch them like scroll through TikTok, like 30 seconds, 60 seconds. Like if you can't get their attention fast, they're moving on. So you do want to keep it brief. I would suggest to aim around 5 minutes, and then keep in mind sort of the design of the time you have. So if you've got 45 minutes, you kind of work backwards to see what all you want to cover in that time and how you're going to fit in your own personal elements. That said, you can also integrate these kinds of conversations a little more organically. So as kids are asking questions, stick in your own stories. I tried to do that here today. I told you this, my own personal story of being a living, breathing STEM success story. So have those sort of at the ready and find, creative ways of integrating those conversations into the overall experience. All right, any other questions before we talk about the last section, which is the virtual connections? And I'm gonna have a sip of tea. All right, I'm gonna keep moving along because we've got about 15 minutes left and I wanna make sure we have time for questions. So I found another quote here that I loved, some words of inspiration from Maya Angelou. I've learned that I still have a lot to learn. And I'm sure we have all experienced this, especially in the last year or so, with everything we've had to learn and adapt to with COVID going on. So I thought that was just a really nice lead into the learnings that have happened or maybe still have to happen when it comes to creating these experiences in the virtual environment. So what we did, we went away, we did some research, and we found that there are five challenges when it comes to working in virtual teams. So building trust, maximizing gains or minimizing losses, overcoming feelings of isolation, balancing technical and interpersonal skills, and then assessment and recognition of performance. So really important stuff when it comes to team building and connecting. So again, I know I'm on the call today with lots of doers. So what can you do? What can we do to overcome these problems? And some of you have maybe now put some of these things into practice already. If you've had to transition to working from home or working virtually in your own roles, or going to school and connecting with teams virtually. So you might have some experience to draw on, but here's 4 things that we recommend. So to build trust, we want you to value people over technology. So it's great that we have these platforms that we can connect now all across Canada, but we still have a person on the other side that has their own strengths and weaknesses. And so we want to learn about that. We want to think about how we can use our collective strengths to make overall the experience better for everyone. So the educator or the student leader, they might be good, like I said, at helping with crowd control of the kids and helping get the questions through to you and that sort of thing. And you're going to bring your strengths to the connection as well. So just try and keep that in mind when you're thinking about how you're creating these really working relationships. Efficiency. So we are all busy. The teachers this year, I've heard from more teachers this year than ever before that they are swamped, they are overwhelmed, and they need help. And so this is what we can do for them. We can help them, but we want to be efficient. I'm sure you're all excited and you want to, you have so much to say to make this experience great for everyone, but time is very valuable. So try and have an agenda and stick to it. And then communication. Really, I would argue there's no way that you could over communicate ever. So make sure you have a communication plan in place. Whoever you're connected with, find out, do they like to use email? Do they prefer Messenger? Like, what is their preference? Have a plan in place. And then make sure you're modeling open and honest and transparent communication. I know what happens to me. Someone sends me like a one-liner email and I immediately go, I think that person's upset at me. The tone of their email was really off. I think there's something wrong. And I'm 99.9% of the time I'm wrong. I've misinterpreted it. But I make sure right away to follow up with them, and that just gives us the opportunity that if there is something bothering one person or the other person, it immediately gets resolved. And then I would argue the most important thing that you can do is to celebrate wins. So make sure you have some time budgeted in your agenda or your plan to reflect on and celebrate those achievements, no matter how big or small they are. You're going to feel good about it. The students are going to feel good about it. The educators, the leaders, everyone will feel more connected when they're being recognized. Now I see a little bit of activity going on in the chat, so let me just have a peek here. All right, Ray's is asking, if we get matched with a school or class that's in our proximity, can the sessions be in person rather than virtual? So it's going to depend on the restrictions in your area, Reza. Most likely you're not going to be close enough that you'll be able to visit them in person. We have classes that have signed up for this all across Canada, which is so exciting. And all of you have signed up from all across Canada, which is amazing. But we are a big country. So our plan is to try and connect you with someone that is geographically relevant. But if we're going to be, I don't know that we'll be able to connect you with someone that's like within a half an hour away. I don't think that's probably going to be possible. But if by some chance it happens, and if by some chance that there aren't COVID protocols in place that you're unable to visit, you're more than welcome to go and say hi to them in person. I can say I am based in Ontario. I know in Ontario that you will not be able to connect with them in person. The youth groups and the schools are all not allowing visitors in person at this time. Christine is asking if there would be a suggested agenda we can follow to structure our session, or is it something that we have to arrange with the teacher? So what I will say in terms of recommendations is that we told you that you should plan for 2 visits. So I would suggest the first visit you plan to be an introductory visit. Just to start that connection, tell them about yourself. And I would recommend also connect with the teacher if you can, get them even on a call before the actual event happens, because they might have some thoughts around what they want to do and how they want to design it. So maybe there's some questions and answers. Maybe they want to get their students to make a list of questions they might have for you, so you could prepare those and bring those to the first event. But I would structure the first one to be a more introductory type of a feel, and then the second one to be more of a like a supportive visit. So how are things going? Maybe they're gonna, they're gonna want to show you their design. They can maybe do a practice presentation to you, and you can give them some feedback on like the engineering design process, or encourage them to maybe do some more research in a certain area, address some of their questions, that sort of thing. So if you're looking, definitely you can coordinate that with your teacher, and if they have something else in mind and something works well for you, absolutely. This is a flexible program, so you're welcome to do that. And if you are looking for a bit more structure, I'm happy to help. Maybe we can connect offline if that's easier. But we really want you to do what's going to work best for you, work best for the educator, and ultimately what's going to be the best experience for the students. And Tuba is asking, does Sterling backcheck need to be done? I received those. I'll talk a little bit about the Sterling backcheck emails that I think most of you have received now in the next few slides, if that's okay, Tuba. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. So just a few more tips on creating these virtual connections with students. So I am not going to pretend to be a social scientist or a psychologist. That is not my strength. I studied chemical engineering, but I really appreciate the the breakdown here of the hierarchy of needs. So this is Maslow's triangle. And so it speaks to the importance of safety and belonging here. So feeling safe, developing a sense of belonging is crucial. It's especially important these days with, kids literally just don't feel safe going out their front door or going to the grocery store, right? So these foundational concepts are really more important than ever. So their physiological needs are being met, they feel safe, then they can start to feel like they belong. The theme usually for National Engineering Month has been, there's a place for you. You belong here if you want to come. So we want to get them there, right? So we want to make sure that these fundamentals are in place so they can start to feel then that sense of self-esteem, and even maybe some light bulbs going off, going, I never knew engineers did that, or wow, I didn't know as an engineer I could help so many people. So just something to keep in mind, again, as you're designing these experiences. And some ways that you can do that. These are just some simple ways that you can try and create these connections with the students and make sure that they have those fundamentals in place. Try and do things like work on learning their names. That might be hard. There's a lot of them. There's only one of you, and especially when it's a virtual environment, that can be tough. But maybe you put a practice in place that anytime a student comes up to the camera to ask you a question, they say their name first and you repeat it back in some way. Thank you, Julie, for your question. Just hearing your name can trigger just a bit of a sense of relief, right? Like, oh wow, I'm important enough that this experienced role model is saying my name, remembering this to include me. Try and find out what they're interested in, what they want to talk about. What do they care about in their world right now? They'll appreciate that, right? I mean, the same goes for us, right? When someone, when you feel like you've been heard, when someone's listening to you, then you feel more willing to share and connect. And then lastly here, at the end of your meetings, just make sure that the students know you're excited to see them again. So you're going to have the chance to do that after your first virtual visit. After your second virtual visit, you can say, I'm excited to see you at the showcase. Like, I had so much fun with you. I can't wait to connect up with you again. And then, that just in the back of their mind, they're going, wow, like I'm a big part of this person's life. And they can take that with them. This is just a quick little plug here. If at all possible, we love to get a window into what's happening at these visits. So teachers sometimes are pretty good at taking pictures. A lot of times they'll post them up on Twitter. So we just really appreciate that. So if at all possible, take some pictures, share them with us. We really appreciate it. Okay, who are we? So your support team. Hello again. You've been listening to me for the last 45 minutes. I am Rebecca White. I represent Engineers of Tomorrow. We are an organization that specializes in grassroots STEM outreach, and we are working together with Engineers Canada. Our connection there is Kim Bouffard, and so they are, really excited about having this national scale, national level opportunity to connect the whole engineering community. So don't be surprised if you see emails from either one of us, and don't be afraid to reach out to either one of us if you need something, have questions, whatever. All right, wrapping things up now. We're going to give you a little bit of homework, nothing too crazy, so don't worry. So I want you to start thinking about your story. Start that reflecting process. How does the work that you do as an engineer or a STEM professional or as a student, how is that work making the world a better place? Why did you make the decisions that you did? Why did you choose the path you did? Just start that reflection exercise. And then you're going to want to start getting familiar with the resources. This is going to help you, I think, feel more grounded, more like, oh, okay, I see how this is all going to play out. You can expect in the next few days, where are we? We're on Friday here. So early next week, I'll say, you can expect to get an email from us. And this is going to be a really important email because it's going to lay out all of these resources. There's actually extensive resources on the futurecity.org website, but what we're going to try and do is flag the ones that we think are most important for this for the Future City experience, for just the things you need to know for this part of the program. The email is also going to be connecting you with your whoever it is, your teacher match, your youth leader, so you'll get to introduce them or introduced to them. And then I should also mention that because we were so gratefully overwhelmed with the amount of volunteers that signed up for the program, it at the moment looks like we may be able to have multiple volunteers matched with the same class. So you may in some cases also get to meet your virtual mentor partner. So I think it's great and neat that we'll be able to have each other to kind of lean on when it comes to creating this, bounce ideas off of and that sort of thing. So the email is going to, like I said, going to be a really important one because it's going to cover all of that information. So just start to get familiar with that. And then the third thing here is to get connected. So get connected to us more broadly. We have some ways that you can connect, and you can get connected with your class. So take that first step, reach out and book an intro call. Get some time on the calendar, some dates on the calendar so that you have something to work towards, they have something to plan to. So getting connected here, I mentioned if there's other ways you want to sort of connect up with our broader engineering passionate engineering community. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're in all the usual places. We have a really big presence on LinkedIn. So we actually have a group there of engineering ambassadors. You can either search up that group on LinkedIn called Engineering Ambassadors. I think I also made this slide clickable. So when you get the slide, you can just click that pink colored arrow there and it'll take you over. Or you can visit the website, engineersoftomorrow.ca, just to find out if you're interested in finding out any more about what we do here. All right, and so what's next? I already covered some of this, but you want to watch out for that email that you'll be getting from us in the next few days, set up that intro call, and then get those dates on the calendar. And please book the showcase dates. May 5th, we don't need May 6th anymore, but May 5th and May 12th are the important dates to block off. All right, so thanks so much everyone for being here with us today, for giving me some of your time on a Friday afternoon. I'm going to stay on the call. I know it's 1 o'clock, so some of you might have to jump off, but I'll stay on the call. I'll keep recording. So if there's any questions anyone has, I am here. And I was going to talk about the back check, right? So Tuba, so we are working with Sterling to do all of the police checks because we're working with youth. We do have to do police checks. And so you should have received, I think everyone's has been done. You should have received an email from Sterling Backcheck, which outlines the steps in that process. There's no cost to you. We're covering the cost of that. If you are unsure about anything, just reach out to me through an email or offline and we can figure that out. I'm told it's pretty painless to go through the process, like maybe 15 minutes or so, and then you get your police check back, your results you get back within 4 hours. So it's really efficient. And Ray is asking, where can we find more resources on this year's Future City theme and goals? So if you do want to check out the futurecity.org site, There is a ton of resources there. I will caution you that it's almost overwhelming the amount of resources they have, but they have ways you can sort and filter and look through for specific things if you're interested. But you may want to just wait for the email that will be coming out in the next few days, because like I said, we are going to flag the specific ones or sections of the resources that are out there that we think are going to be most relevant to you. The other thing I will tell you, I didn't mention this in the rest of the presentation, but one of the other resources, I guess, that we have made available to the teachers is a live Q&A panel with some actual there's like a rocket scientist, an astronaut, a planetary scientist. So people that are experts in this year's theme. So the students will have an opportunity to ask those really like specific questions to that panel. So that's happening mid-March. It's set up for, I believe. And that information will also be in the email. Hi, Russell. Nice to meet you. Sorry that you weren't able to join us sooner. No worries. We have been recording this whole session, so we will be sharing that recording with everyone. So you're welcome to listen back, watch back. And if you have any questions, and this goes to everyone, if you have any questions at any time, I'm happy to connect. If you want to emails back and forth or even for a quick phone call, it's not a problem. I am here to help. All right, I'll stay on for a bit longer if anyone has any other questions. Otherwise, thank you again, and please have a wonderful rest of your Friday afternoon and a wonderful weekend. Thanks so much, everyone.